So Donald Trump and all of his MAGA minions, many of his MAGA minions, I guess I should say, have been lying to the country for days. They have lied to all of us over and over and over again.
Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated.
Those pilots hit their targets. Those targets were obliterated.
We have obliterated the Iranian nuclear program.
We are confident, yes, that Iran's nuclear sites were completely and totally obliterated.
Iran's nuclear program has been completely and totally obliterated. I feel like maybe they had a note card that said obliterated on it and they gave it to all those people and made them say it. Who knows? But that was the message from the Trump administration since Saturday night. Clearly, that's what they kept saying over and over and over again. Even, by the way, as top members of the military, including high-ranking people within this administration, were saying it was too early to make an assessment. Because it was too early to make an assessment. And now here are the headlines from this afternoon. Here's one from CNN. Early U.S. intel assessment suggests strikes on Iran did not destroy nuclear sites. From the New York Times, strikes set back Iran's nuclear program by only a few months, U.S. report says. That's according to an initial classified intelligence assessment, which reportedly found that the U.S. strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities, quote, did not collapse their underground buildings and set back Iran's nuclear program by only a few months. In fact, from all this reporting, a lot of it came out this afternoon, it turns out that much of Iran's stockpile of enriched uranium was moved before the strikes, which destroyed little of the nuclear material. In our own reporting, NBC News put an even finer point on it, saying, quote, an initial assessment by the Defense Intelligence Agency concludes that the U.S. airstrikes conducted over the weekend on Iran's nuclear enrichment sites were not as effective as Donald Trump said. To state the obvious, claiming you obliterated Iran's nuclear program doesn't make it so. And it's something that people then assess, including the military. But for Trump, it's always about the one day of headlines, the one-word slogan, claiming victory right off the bat, about obfuscation and defiance being prioritized over facts. And that will continue, I expect, even in the face of these new facts. Takes, for example, the statement released today by White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt. Here's what she had to say. This alleged assessment is flat out wrong and was classified as top secret, but was still leaked by an anonymous low-level loser in the intelligence community. Whew, there's a lot to unpack there. Couple questions here. If the assessment is flat out wrong, why was it classified as top secret, as she also characterized it? And if it's top secret, why do low-level losers, as she called them, have access to it? Lots of questions there. Her statement obviously makes no sense. Of course it doesn't. But we see this cycle constantly. Donald Trump says something, facts and reality say something else, and then his people have to kind of twist themselves into knots trying to explain why he's right and we're all apparently crazy, though we're not. I mean, it was just yesterday that Trump announced that he had brokered a ceasefire between Iran and Israel. In fact, he was so confident in his negotiation skills that he told NBC News, quote, I think the ceasefire is unlimited. It's going to go forever. I don't believe they will ever be shooting at each other again. But that statement had a shelf life of a few hours because Israel and Iran started firing at each other overnight, just a few hours after he said that. Even Trump couldn't deny that reality. And the embarrassment that his ceasefire wasn't as forever as he had hoped, and all those big feelings apparently, prompted him to drop an F-bomb on the White House lawn this morning.
We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard.
The American people do not like the Republican budget bill. I know. 5 different polls are now showing overwhelming opposition to the legislation. And some Senate Republicans also seem opposed. Senator Tom Tillis of North Carolina, who is up for re-election next year, was seen handing out these flyers last night to his colleagues, showing the 10 states that stand to lose the most federal Medicaid funding over the next decade if the legislation goes into effect as is. The biggest loser? North Carolina.
Well, there's a reason Tillis is nervous, and he should be.
He's doing everything to try to keep his job,
everything
except
he can.
Stand up to the administration and vote no.
Well, there is that piece. You know, it would help if you just stood there. You find a lot of friends who want to stand with you when you stop and you look at exactly what's at stake here. Protecting Medicaid is essential for vulnerable communities out there. But then you have the likes of Mitch McConnell, who said apparently in a short speech today during the negotiations, quote, failure is not an option, and added, I know a lot of us are hearing from people back home about Medicaid, maybe Mr. Tillis and a few others. Then he goes on, but they'll get over it. They'll get over it. So we're going to cut.
You know, Michael, we're all going to die. We're all going to die.
Right?
Yeah.
That's right. Exactly. So we're all going to
ads
die.
write themselves, honey.
And you'll get over it.
Oh. I find it so interesting looking at this polling, which I know both of you have been looking at too. I mean, the numbers are consistent across the board, regardless of the methodology, regardless of who's doing it. But the Fox News poll was perhaps...
It cuts Medicaid by $700 billion, cuts Medicare by $500 billion, cuts SNAP benefits by $300 billion, contains $3.8 trillion in tax cuts, and increases the debt by more than $3 trillion over 10 years. To Alicia's point, who is this for? And just today, we are learning via reporting that there are going to be $41 billion in cuts to SNAP. That is food assistance. The senators and members of Congress who vote for this, they are voting to have some of y'all go hungry out there. They are voting to take money out of the pockets of their own constituents. They are voting for you not to be able to get health care when you need it. They are voting to take away the money for your parent to be in a nursing home, to have that in-home care. This is what they are voting for. They are voting to make to starve your children. This is what the bill is. I don't understand it.
Well...
Help me understand, Michael.
Well, I will right now in this moment, because as far as these Republicans are concerned, you'll get over it because you're going to die anyway. And at the end of the day, that's what they think of you. That's what they care about you.
Late on Friday evening, Donald Trump released his financial disclosure forms. So we are finally able to see just how much money he was able to bill out of his dumb supporters, right? Well, it turns out that just like every other thing in his life, Donald Trump is not good at being a grifter. I know, I've sat here and talked about the fact that Donald Trump is duping his supporters, he's ripping them off for millions and millions of dollars. But it turns out he didn't get as much money from those rubes as we thought he did. Because apparently, and I'll admit this, Trump supporters, some of them, not as dumb as I had said they were. And that actually makes me feel better. According to Donald Trump's financial disclosure forms, he did make millions of dollars selling all kinds of garbage with his name on it, including guitars, which I didn't even know was a thing. But yeah, he was selling guitars with his name. Those Trump sneakers, the NFTs, the Bibles, and the amount of money he made off those things is shocking. Not shocking because it's so high, shocking because it's so low. Here is what Donald Trump made off of the Save America coffee table book. He made $3 million on the Trump sneakers and fragrances combined. He made $2.5 million off those cheap Trump watches. He made $2.8 million. The Bible he was selling, he made $1.3 million. That 45 guitar I was talking about, he made $1 million. And on his NFTs, that all sold out immediately, he only made $1.1 million. No, listen, that is a lot of money, okay? Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say like, oh, this is pennies. That is a life-changing amount of money for me, for you guys, for everybody, except for billionaires. For billionaires, when you have, maybe $10 or $11 million off of this entire enterprise of selling your name and slapping your face on the dumbest products imaginable, if you only pull in $10 to $11 million a year on that, then you're bad at it, okay? That's how that works. You are not good at it. Just like you are not good at being president, you are not good at running businesses. You are also apparently not good at grifting your supporters. This actually gives me hope, folks. This is a positive story. I had been thinking that Donald Trump was ripping these folks off to the